final DLC map of World War II zombies, which is called the Frozen Dawn. This Easter egg was discovered by a guy called Pete. At this point, everyone kind of understands that there will be ways of getting wonder weapons, not just from the mystery box. Some of the worst mechanics in zombies history, in my opinion, is only being able to get a wonder weapon from a mystery box. There should always be a quest to either make or find the wonder weapon inside. So, moving on to our next piece of information for this video, a brand new Easter egg has been discovered, or at least the potential start of a new Easter egg has been discovered, and now we need evidence to hunt and find this. And this is actually inside of the code of the game, and it's called the Tower Defense Easter egg. And this takes place in the final DLC map of World War II Zombies, which is called the Frozen Dawn. This Easter egg was discovered by a guy called Peter Youngblood, and it was brought to my attention by Absalom, who made a video on it. And for this, you need to have a rocket launcher. There's 3 rocket launchers inside of the game, and as long as you've got one of them, you're able to then do this Easter egg. And all it is fire the rockets at the towers at the back of the map, and then they will then fire rockets back at you. The fact that it's found inside of the code called the Tower Defense Easter egg, it suggests that there's way more to this Easter egg than we currently know. Potentially you have to kill zombies with this returning rocket. Potentially you need to do this at a specific point in the Easter egg quest. I don't know, but there does now need to be a community effort to jump on this thing and try and figure it out. It does need to be noted right now that World War II Zombies still holds incredible amount of unsolved Easter eggs. So, if you want to do some for over the next 6 weeks before the release of Black Ops 6, jump on World War II Zombies and discover some Easter eggs, including this brand new one, the Tower Defense step. And right before I was posting this video, there has been another brand new Easter egg that has just been solved, and believe it or not, it's on the exact same map. This is the grenade cluster Easter egg. This thing is just weird. You need to make sure that you have got grenades active inside of your game, and then you will make your way over to this part of the map right here where there is no roof. You throw a grenade through the opening of the ceiling, and then you get bombarded with a ridiculous amount of grenades back to you. Literally makes absolutely no sense. There you go, another brand new Easter egg that's just been solved. Frozen Dawn of World War II Zombies. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you did, please make sure you leave a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel to become a latest member of the Pizza Club. We're on the road to 1 million subscribers, and I appreciate you guys doing that support. There you go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video or the next live stream. Thank you very much for watching, and peace out.
That actually does something, right? Like it's meaningful. And I would want a similar in-game indication. Like make it part of the design, instead of like you just have to know that you're around 40 now, and so the zombie is going to do 40 damage instead of 18 damage that it does around 3. Like if that was there in the game, I'd be like, oh, okay, I can get behind it a little bit more. But as it stands, it's like it's too much breaking the emotion of gameplay and a bit more just an understanding of like playing a game. I feel like there's a sort of difference there. But anyhow, I digress. Cold War introduced a whole load of systems like that that were absolutely, categorically, nobody can deny, intended to be smoothing out kinks in the zombies gameplay process and rhythm and cadence, etc. that had existed for like years, right? And absolutely. It sounds like you're generally a big fan of all those things. Is that correct?
Yes. I think it's a very reactionary game to BO4. A lot of systems that were made in BO4 where it all kind of blew up in their faces. And they went back to the drawing board and they go, how do we redesign this with better intentions in mind? You can't just change things for the sake of change. Right, you have to have a reason behind them. Mm-hmm. And even if some of the reasons are justified, they don't always land.
For sure. So, let's use our knowledge of the fact that Cold War is more or less very, very heavy inspiration for Black Ops 6. Like, there's no denying that this game is very clearly a sequel, right, to that game.
No.
What do you think some of the best changes that they made were in Cold War, just so we can sort of anchor that and then talk about how they've been maybe slightly modulated or slightly redesigned in places in Black Ops 6. Let's start with Cold War.
Ooh, okay. So I think everything that I have to say positive about Cold War comes with a downside too. I think having more ranged enemies, I think having more exciting gameplay. I know for a lot of people don't like that. It gets old when you have like Manglers always on screen, Tempest always on screen, Plague Hounds, but I like that very chaotic gameplay. In Forsaken, I think the Ludo narrative is really cool where it's almost as if the Forsaken's entire army is going after you, as there's like 9 different enemy types in that map. But at the same time, none of them are cohesively the same. Everything feels like it's from different maps. It's like Revelations, but done slightly wrong. The enemy roster doesn't fit together. The Keeper's Furies and the Apothecan's Furies and the Margwas and Revelations, that's an Apothecan army. Whereas in Forsaken, the Dark Aether's army is like zombies, Tempest, Mangler, Plague Hounds, Tormentors, Abominations. They don't all cohesively fit together, even if they're a mishmashed army. Even though I think the idea of that's
that's a fun point. I wanna give you like a devil's advocate just to see what you think of it. Did you feel like the Ether overall, like the Ether story and blah blah blah, do you think that overall the way they sort of established the magic of that universe was more cohesive, let's say, within the camps of Keepers and Apothecons, that those being the tribes, right? Do you think that was more cohesive, not by accident, but actually by intention? Do you think that it was almost this sort of structured look at magic in the Ether story, and then maybe in the Dark Ether story, it's intended to be a less structured look because it's broken down. It's the Dark Ether. It's like the worst case scenario almost of stuff that's just in this alternate world that's just bubbling around, and it doesn't really make sense. And there isn't one through line where one enemy type or one enemy faction or one enemy tribe started out a bajillion years ago, descended down into sort of different variants of one same enemy race or whatever you call it. Do you feel like there could be desire for Treyarch to actually be leaning into that as opposed to it just being like a flaw?
Yeah, I think by proxy, BO3 does a better job. I think a cohesive enemy line makes more sense. But they also didn't do the best job as this is also their style too. In BO3, every map is trying something new. Every map's in a different location. Yeah, it feels like by Revelations, they almost forgot that they were supposed to do something with the Apothecans, so they just drag them all into the last map. Because also in that map, you also have spiders, you have parasites too, which might not be as cohesive to that very Apothecan army, even if the parasites come from the Margwas.
Yeah.
You have Panthers in there too, which do not fit at all, just for the sake of having a Panther soul out, which is cool, but that's very Forsaken-esque, where it's just, let's just pull everything at the wall and just start doing it, even if those 3 core enemies that are all Apothecans are really cool.
Okay, so maybe there's a little bit of sort of friction or imperfection in both. Even the King, BO3, can have some flaws.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I think with their design team in mind, they really don't want to do a full, like, through-line army. They really want to, like, keep surprising players, even if that kind of ruins the overall consistency of what beings they all are. Yeah, because they really want to keep, like, in Liberty Falls, you have Abominations, for example. Like, that's something I didn't think Manglers were back to. I didn't think they were going to do that, but they were just going to be zombies and maybe one other enemy type. But there's Vermin from Terminus, which don't really fit on the map. You have Manglers, which don't fit on the map, and Abominations, which don't fit on the map. They really want to try and surprise you, but that also loses some of the...
Yeah, although I feel like the Abomination to me on that map, I don't know why I feel this way, but it feels like that is the most sort of fitting enemy of all equals, just because when I think of Abominations, I think of I think of them like a rhinoceros, and they just sort of charge around, right? And that's kind of their primary goal, is just to basically bang into stuff. And I feel like there's no better an enemy type to put into a small town, which otherwise also might feel too open, because it is so open, but I feel like the Abomination is a really good gap closer, and something that just generally makes you recognize, like, yeah, sure, there's 20 zombies on screen here who I don't care about, but there is still this rhinoceros that's ready to charge up behind me that I kind of got to sort of keep my wits about me for, right? So I feel like almost its contrast to the town itself and its contrast to the sort of quiet vibe and the very sort of human area maybe actually works.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I never thought of it like a rhinoceros fitting into the gameplay style. That's a really good point. I like to think more like a dissonance style. Shadows of Evil is a very normal-looking town, but you have all these Cthulhian monsters. They love doing their opposites. Gorod Krovi is fantasy versus future. Maurer Toten is very, like, sci-fi heavy plus magic heavy. You have Krasny, you have the Disciple, you have Valentina. They love doing their very, like, let's take something that's one style and then throwing another style.
Yeah, that's a really cool observation. Thinking about like Maurer in the context of obviously the magic being present, but that not being the only sort of thing you've got to contend with. Obviously.
Yeah.
And then actually even Klaus's presence in itself is
Yes.
a rejection of that in some ways, right? And Klaus's I forget what's Klaus's original. We built Klaus, right?
We fixed him. He was purposely dismantled so that he would stop murdering people. He murdered some of the Requiem agents that came in to help him develop the bomb.
Right.
And then they dismantled. He lost his hands. It was lost. The battery was lost, and then you help repair him, and he's still kind of psyched.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And now he's slaughtering people in multiplayer. And soon, I guess, in Liberty Falls, and maybe in Terminus 2. So in Liberty Falls, you have that a little bit of that dissonance present still for sure. But in contrast to something like Shadows of Evil, let's say, Shadows is very much a sort of normal-looking town that then gets the Cthulhu spin on it. Like the Max's quote, I think, is perfect, where he says this world is fractured and broken, and you really get the idea that it's sort of a mirror image of the town it once was, but it's through a broken mirror. And that broken mirror is giving you a manifestation of the world that should never have happened, could never happen, and yet here it is, right? So the world itself, like, without the zombies in it, without the Magua in it, without anything else, it already feels so dripping in ambience. Whereas the majority of the internet would say Liberty Falls does not feel that way. But I'm curious if you disagree with that, or if you just think that it's need that ambience. Like, where do you stand on the no aura argument for Liberty Falls?
Yeah, I do agree with people a lot. I think that that's a very good point to make. I like when Zombies is always going bombastic and trying a lot of new things. This is something that I flagged originally. I made 2 IW reviews. When I first started with Zombies, I made an original IW review, and I made a better one later. I originally flagged IW for that, where it's like, with Zombies, you have Alcatraz Island, you have the trenches of World War I, you have a frozen castle, this desolate island, and then IW is just a theme park, campgrounds, New York City. And I think that same, even if the art design I think is amazing, I think that same kind of aspect is happening with Cold War and Kevin Drew's lead off the actual game, where it's, let's set these in normal places, let's set these in sci-fi oriented places, let's take normal places and try and put them on their head. But I want to see more. Liberty Falls has a good foundation. It's just missing that linchpin that really drags it all together, for me personally.
Okay, and what could that be?
Yeah, I know for a lot of people it's overdone at this point. I'm fully of the belief, at least, this is my absolute expectation, that halfway through the Easter egg, something goes wrong and the whole map gets completely inverted into the Dark Ether. So only the church is dark. The church is normal. Yep, Dark Ether is at the whole map. I'd be almost floored if the entire Dark Ether was just that one church. I would be shocked. That was all that it was.
Okay, so that's, for you, that's the sort of like, the thumbs up, we're back, boys. Like, that's the moment where you're like, okay, all the worries have washed away and we're good now. It has
definitely. I think that the Dark Ether, especially if it's done right, I think it's the machine to the next level. Because I would hope that that's where, like, they're lulling you into this, like, normal-looking world, and then with a guided quest, if you choose to do it, that's where you get to see more than what there really is.
Yeah. I hope you're right. I really do.
I agree. I hope I'm right, too, because it's not. It's gonna be bad if I'm not right.
So the thing that is worrying me...
Hello.
Obviously.
Hello, everyone.
The thing that worries me is Treyarch in recent years, and just actually Call of Duty in general, but let's say Treyarch.
Watching Milo
has,
talk about Black Ops.
I think, lost some of its confidence in its marketing, specifically within the following statement. I go on to run with this. I think they've lost their confidence in taking things that are going to be revealed as part of Easter egg boss fight, or midway through the main quest, or it's a harder thing to unlock it, it's a harder thing to achieve, or whatever. They've lost their confidence in not showing that stuff pre-launch. Because it used to be that if we got a crazy Easter egg boss fight, that was not in the trailer, right? Like, that should not be in the trailer. That reveal being in the trailer, it's a spoiler. But nowadays, I think there's a lot more like, oh, what if people don't get to the end of the Easter egg? They'll never see the boss fight. We've got to put it in the trailer. Like, giant worm in Modern Warfare Zombies. Yes. Why was that shown in advance? Doesn't make any sense. Really poor, in my opinion, to reveal what that was early, and then just have us grinding through all those objectives, leading up to something that we already knew what it was. Like, it defines it in explicit a way. I want it to be a missing way. I want to be blown away with those giant war that come out in night. Like, I want to be into my marble like I was at the time when we sold it. So, in Liberty Falls, my concern is based on the cynicism that I have come to adopt based on how I know they market these games.
If you didn't or after it, go for turn. Use this AI hack instead. That's what I did, and it's how I got this 100.
No, they market these games now. The fact that they haven't shown any underground area, or they haven't shown any ether inversion, they haven't done anything like that at all. Literally all they've done is shown us obviously the gameplay of above ground, as daylight, nice outside, and they've shown us the church, we're indoors. And that's it. There's not been any conceit towards even what the story is really going to be. We know that there's like some scientists that we've got to rescue. We also know that the map actually, and this is a point that Alexian pointed out. A lot of people missed this. The map doesn't actually take place at the same time as Terminus. Despite the fact that there was so much marketing about that originally, the cutscenes take place at the same time. The Liberty Falls takes place the next day. Like, the actual gameplay takes place the next day. So it's a day later.
Anyone
what's his name? Bradford?
Blanchard.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blanchard, yeah.
He's like, oh, I've been looking for somewhere safe to be for like 24 hours now, man. Like, glad you guys are here, all this stuff. That's all we've seen. We haven't seen anything further, and my cynical ass sees that and goes, okay, well, I know that they would market the further stuff if there was further stuff, so ergo, there is no further stuff, which is scary as hell, but also, maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Those are all amazing points that you made right there. I totally agree. I think if there's any game where they're going to prove us wrong, it's this game. If not, then I think we know what we're getting into for the next couple of years, and I think that for a lot of fans, this is the game that's going to dictate whether or not they keep playing, or keep supporting it. I totally agree with that. I know Jason Mundell was asked around the time IW was coming out. They would always reveal their bosses in the trailer. Jason said he would never do something like that. And then come Alpha Omega, they teased the Avogadro at the end. Come Mauer, they teased Valentina at the end of that trailer. Forsaken is very much in the part of the Forsaken map. You almost reveal him so quickly.
Yep.
And I totally agree with that sentiment that if there's something they want to show off, they're going to. Like, you look at the gameplay breakdown, they've broken down every single system before we even got a chance to look at it.
Yeah, like, that was a weird one, because, like, on one hand, I'm like, this is great because it shows confidence in zombies in some ways, to be giving us a month of just blog post after blog post, trailer after trailer, and all this, like, that was amazing. But part of me was also like, are you just showing everything? If you are, that's not good. But if you're just scratching the surface, then hell yeah, I don't care at all.
I hope so.
Is there?
Sorry. Look at BO3 real quick, because BO3 we had just the Shadows trailer, and then we had Goblins. We had genuinely no idea how they worked. And it was up to us to play the game to finally get an idea of how they work, how the system is. Like, we didn't get, we saw them, but we had, some people thought they were perfect. So we had genuinely no idea what was going on. So some leaks came out and we knew what they were. And then once we actually got into the game, we got to experiment.
So this actually leads nicely to the whole like, hand-holding era that we're now in, right? As far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong,
Now you're
but
ready
you
for
are
your close-up.
emphatically in favor of guidance.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there's a point where the developer should be guiding the player, and I think the guided mode should be where other stuff I'm not so confident they should be doing.
What's the other stuff you're referring to?
Yes, I think that whatchamacallit, like doing all these systems where it's like the rarity system. I think the point system, as much as I love it, and I think the change is a good idea to get people to use different weapons. It's a bit divisive. I understand that a lot. I know Kevin Drew, he's talked about like his experience with his brother, and that made him really think about how he changed the point system, which completely flipped the gameplay system on its head. Where now you have rarities, you have salvage, you have armor, you have things that are made to make it a lot easier for you. I think that there are, just like anything that Treyarch has done, better ways. But a big one is armor. I think armor, I wish it was stylistically not just Warzone armor. I think I don't like well, I think the shield was a really good idea. It always gave each map personality. I think putting the armor on the wall is a great idea, because that's something I always vouched for. I understand that a lot of people would never, like, unless they watched a guide or they had someone walking them through it, they would never put the shield. They didn't know it even existed on Everton. And I think at least having
favorite the armor dummy as well.
Like the armor dummy, yeah, definitely Ivan thinks, yeah, is a great idea. But
The name of the armor dummy?
yeah,
Wow.
that's the Ivan station.
Is that what it's called? The Ivan Station?
Yeah, I think it's natural.
Wow, okay. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called. I know the robot itself is called Ivan, like the little dummy guy.
Right, so Ivan has been wrecked.
They're completely nuked. They took him out.
Oh god.
But I do like the shield a lot. I think what made the shield super interesting was that like you could take hits with the shield or you could not, and you could save durability that way. There was a very min-max way that you could utilize personal armor. You're taking that hit every single time, and once you run out, there's no way to get it back. Unless you get RNG drops from the dead.
Yeah, which now, in Black Ops 6, is less frequent.
Yes, which I don't like, because of how conducive you need armor for the higher rounds. You need it to deal with more ranged enemies. More mitigated.
The truth is, behind closed doors, he was my secret sin at age 10. And for the next 17 years of my life, what I did
to deal with the more ranged enemies. I mitigated that with the jug upgrade, which gave you more armor durability, so that helped.
It makes me think of Doom Eternal, I think it was, where they talked so much about the way that they had designed the risk reward, so that if you really got in there with the demons, you were melee killing them and you were doing your executions and stuff, then you would get extra drops, right? Because you're putting yourself into battle and you're proving your skill, so you deserve to be rewarded for exhibiting that skill. But if you were much more passive and sat back and didn't do anything and just sort of stayed as far away as you could, you'd get no drops, and so you'd be forced into the battle, so you'd have to be sort of dancing this risk-reward dance. And I feel like what removing the drops or minimizing the drops does in Black Ops 6 is it means that either I could like slay out and I could go crazy, just killing everything, and then getting my stuff back, my ammo back, my armor back, as a reward for my expertise, or I could, I don't know, use a trap or something or whatever, right? Whereas now, I feel like you're just going to dump a load of ammo into an enemy and it's going to die. You're not going to get anything. You're going to be like, why did I bother? Like, I'm just losing all my stuff then. Like, there's no way I can get flex to get the extra ammo or to get the extra reward or to benefit beyond the thing just being dead. But it would be dead if I killed it a much less efficient way or whatever as well. So I think that there's maybe some tweaking that they could do there. Because when I played Black Ops 6 and I played Terminus, the ammo sort of changes that they've made really was frustrating. I ran into several instances where I just didn't have ammo, and I was just like, it's just annoying, and I'm not near an ammo crate right now. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that that's something I can just tweak.
because, yeah, there's a lot of points to pull out.
Yeah.
I think that they're trying hard to balance back to the survival, ammo management of the old series, but still the action hero-ness of the new series. Because I think the more they changed, the more they made it complicated on themselves. DO1 was perfect for you. DO1, DO2. You have good weapons, bad weapons. Really trumped everything. Then DO3 kind of flipped on its head with ultra ammo type, or just powerful wonder weapons now. Then DO4 flipped on its head again with special weapons and wonder weapons and the shield and the equipment always doing infinite damage. Then Full War did away with all of that, and now you have rarity, you have weapons that can technically rival wonder weapons, you have equipment which is basically better than wonder weapons at times, you have score streaks, you have field upgrades, and you have all these different systems at play, and I think the balance is really kind of messed up right now. If you min-max your weapon, you can do just fine. If you're a new player, I think goes completely against their kind of stuff. You want to treat surviving the home. I think rarity is poorly placed. I think cap levels are a good idea, like a good idea, but I hope that they're adding damage to the weapons, not just giving you the amount of damage that a full cap weapon would have done over 3 max weapons. I don't think they have. That also might be good both. Health cap I think is a good idea. But they're trying so hard to balance all the pieces more than made it complicated. They'll less than basic change. Yeah. So let me pull some of this out. You said like what everyone was supposed to do with Kevin Drew talking about his brother being yelled at for not optimizing points on whatever it was, Keynote to Tone or something, right? I think it was Shadows, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you think that is the core root? Obviously, it wasn't just like, it happened one day and he was like, okay, I'm going to flip the entire game on its head. But do you think that change to the point system is essentially the underpinning of all of these other changes and all of the other areas of awkwardness now? Weapon rarities, attack punch levels, all these sorts of things. Do you think that all stems from the points change? Because they were like, oh, we're changing points, so that means we have to do all these other things the way that you climb up the power curve, or you do all these other things. And so they're just trying to sort of fix a problem that they almost caused for themselves, like a new problem they almost caused for themselves. What do you think?
Yes. Trying to excuse themselves. You have a problem by making systems that excuse that system. So I will say one thing, in BO4, they changed the point system there for a whole different reason we don't know, because BO4's gameplay is nothing like Cold War's. It's percentage based, so the amount of damage that you do gets you points, and then you get bonus points for headshots and melee. Also, real quick, in this game I noticed that melee is only 105, not 115, which I think is really sad that they lost that reference.
I didn't notice that.
That was the one reference to 115 in, besides the meat.
What the fuck? No Vaseline, no garlic.
All in a day's work.
I'm just watching stuff about the TF6, and then I'm trying to get Dark Matter. I gotta level up 2 more snipers, which is fucking retarded. I'm glad that you don't have to level up your guns anymore in BO6. Or zombie crap.
Next time, try wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Lost that reference. I didn't notice that was the one reference to 115 in besides the Meteors and MWC. That was the one reference to 115.
It's back now, though. 115.
Oh, right. Oh, you're right.
It's back now.
Yeah, because the Ring Test has it on it.
Yeah.
The Meteors are showing up in MWZ, so we'll find out what that'll be.
Yeah, it's so weird, man. So
We'll get into that later. But anyways, what was the question again?
The point system being the underpinning.
Yes, they're excusing themselves. Yes. MWC does the exact same thing. The schematics feed into the gameplay loop, that excuses the hour-long timer. I think a lot of this stuff tries to excuse itself, and there's systems that are created to excuse other systems. Weapon abilities so that you have a reason to have lower damage weapons, you can spawn into loadout weapons, and all of that lets you use any weapon that you want, they really want you to change up your weaponry. They want you to try different things. But I also feel like that none of the systems are conducive in that. NWZ was terrible at that. You couldn't apply any of your weapon blueprints to weapons that you pulled out of the box, the wall. So you were more incentivized once you got to the end game of MWZ to use your legendary Aether tool on the weapon. You were incentivized to keep your loadout weapon and use a wonder weapon. You were never incentivized to hit the box. That's by how much they really wanted you to. Because the game was so crazy and hectic, you couldn't keep up if you didn't do that.
So you feel like there's multiple systems working towards differing goals here, and that's what's causing that friction.
Yes, and then they're all kind of fighting each other.
Yeah. So,
and that's a big issue that I think people are totally justified in gameplay of Cold War and Vanguard and MWC. Everything is fighting itself.
Yeah. So let's play devil's advocate for a second. If they're excusing themselves from problems that they've created with their own systems in the modern takes on zombies, could the same argument be made for the original system? Let's go back to World of Warcraft, right? Let's just go back to the complete basics. And I don't know where I'm going to land on this, but I'm going to sort of work it through in real time here. So, you're shooting zombies, and the zombies are dying. You essentially have to have a single resource initially, which is your ammunition, right? Before you add any other systems, you have a gun and you're shooting zombies, so you have ammo, right? So that's your first rigid system you cannot get rid of. You can't get rid of the ammo system.
Yes.
Second resource is then points immediately after that. And the thinking being that you might want to buy more ammunition, and so you buy more ammunition with your points. Now, it could be free, but then
shit, I just walked into a trap.
Between whether or not you kill a zombie or whether or not you get more kills compared to another player in your team? No. So I guess the point system feels like a pretty natural extension to that. The implementation of the point system, where it's per hit, I don't think that's mega necessary. I don't think it's like an axiom of what the sort of game scenario thrusts onto you as a player. I think it could have been another way initially, and it would have still worked. It might not have been as good, that's a separate argument, but it would have worked. Regardless, though, you have a point system, and then you have the requisite need based on that.
Trying to get
things to spend points on. And
some other weapons out of the box.
Control for something
I died.
is great. That's nice to have that as a place where you can buy them for that specific gun. Two things could happen. One is it would be nice to mix things up with somewhere to use different weapons, right, and have an element of variety coming in. And then also have an opportunity to have a more powerful weapon than you might otherwise have from just buying it from a wall weapon or whatever. And there's the mystery box, right? So, like, at our core, things are pretty simple, things are pretty set. I don't think there's any systems there that feel kind of out of place or that they've been elbowed in or shoved in or whatever. You start adding parts, it's just more flavor for ways for you to get more powerful and to spend the money you've earned, because you've got an excess of money at this point. You add the pack punch in, and that's a direct response to the fact that people are just getting too good, and they're hitting the same kind of round cap. Everyone's hitting round 20 on Dries, and they're like, well, I'd like to be able to go further, and so pack punch allows you to do that, right? I think if we sort of stop there for a second, those systems, unless I'm forgetting something, and I'd love to hear it,
window available.
But I think those systems all are pretty cohesive overall. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think also traps are in there too. Traps are also a way to spend your money and get to high rounds without pack punch.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the point.
For sure. So, I mean, traps were and right. So that was a sooner implementation as well. So it was a nice additional power jump for you to be able to deal with the zombies even sooner. So the Trout team clearly, all the way back in the day, was very aware of the needs of the player base and the needs of the player, the individual player in a given match. And we're clearly designing systems specifically to speak to that, right? What would you say to a slightly later decision like ultimate ammo claims? Where would you place that in my kind of characterization of these underlying core mechanics that definitely are necessary, they're axiomatic, and then maybe if we use the other end of the spectrum as some of the Cold War systems as being sort of fluff to fix other fluff, to fix other things, etc. Where do you think ammo types fit?
Yeah, the way that I interpret all this is like a needs, where it's like you have points, ammo, upgrading, and then I think BO3, I think ammo types are absolutely superfluous. I think with how overpowered the wonder weapons are, that was just their way of allowing you to use other stuff than just the wonder weapons, especially on maps where like Shadow's only one person can get popped. So that was definitely out of the need of let's give everyone something that they can use linking like co-op version. Because before that you had no choice but to just have nothing.
Yeah,
you were just everyone the guy the guy who gets the ray gun early on, the guy who gets like the wonder weapon, the thunder gun, that was it. That was the guy who was the most powerful. Sure, he couldn't make as many points, but to say that he was in any way more vulnerable than the other players is almost a lie. Like he was most definitely not vulnerable to the players. Yeah, I mean, that guy always had a guaranteed gadget free button.
Like it was mind-blowing to have other people. You could make my page and like it one of
he was most definitely not vulnerable in the slightest compared to those players. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that guy always had a guaranteed gadget free button.
Yeah, quite literally, especially with something like Thunder Gun. Like, yes, somebody gets that second spin on Kino, and you're like, okay, I'll actually just go wash the dishes or something. I'll come back and still like that's fine.
Yeah.
So that's a great way of putting that. I think characterize that well because what that means is it once again fits in to a framework we're making. So I think of Treyarch team at that point seeing problems with the foundation of the way that people started playing the game, right? So you went from Nitro and Toten, you're just sort of messing around, but then later down the line, okay, one person does get a wonder weapon, one person does get really powerful, that's awesome, but then what do the other people do? And also, does the singular powerful weapon mean that variety is no longer of interest, right? Like on World at War in Nitro and Toten, if I get a Browning and my mate gets the MG, we're both happy, right? We're both still... it's still viable to do what we do. But later down the line, you get, Toten or something, yeah, the mate with the Thunder Gun is just categorically a god, compared to you being a little peasant running around with your Type 100 or something, or whatever. Like, you know what I mean. So, the question I would ask is, in that scenario, they're fixing weapon variety, they're expanding weapon variety, maybe in some small ways at the cost of wonder weapon power, but wonder weapons are still really cool. They often have a slightly more unique kind of element to the way that they can be utilized, or some sort of unique effect, or something like that, which means that maybe they're not made completely irrelevant just because other guns are more powerful. So maybe that's fine. Are there any, let's say, BO3 and before, because obviously BO4 did change quite a lot, are there any other systems, BO3 or before, that you think, in addition, that were shoehorned in the way that some people would argue stuff is shoehorned in Cold War? Like Gobblegums, do those feel good?
Actually, I think they do. As much as I despise the system, I'm a big, classic user. You'll never see me using, Perkaholic or anything.
Yeah.
But I think the system is really cool. It gives a lot of players replayability. It really gives people different options. Do you want to go with Immolations? Revelations is super heavy on that, so that completely changes that mechanic. That's how you buy. Perkaholic, you just get all the perks instantly. I think where the system falls apart is when the Gobblegums are no longer in service of the game. And I do think Perkaholic is the biggest offender of that, where it's simply, you can't get more perk slots that are available on the map. Besides, the only way is unquenchable, Soda Fountain, Perkaholic. But most of them do a pretty good job of, let's add more to the game.
Agreed. And I think one of the nice things about Gobbles as well is that there's a world where it was a little bit more, maybe even Covenant-y, where the game dictated what you were getting in a given moment, and you sort of went up to your, I forget what it was even called, the book thing, and
Altar of the Covenants, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So you go up to the altar, and it says, okay, yeah, you can pick from these, but it's a game choice, as opposed to you being like, okay, I'm going to load in with these Gobblegums because these are the ones that I want to randomize in my game, and that's the flavor of experience that I want. So I like the agency of Gobblegums as well. I think that's a positive in their favor. As we move towards Black Ops 4, I think we start to see systems get a little bit more into grey area a little bit as to the reason the change is being made. And an example that we have already referenced here that you mentioned a moment ago was the way that they changed the BO4 point system, right?
Yes.
Do you feel like, given what we know about the existing axiomatic systems, do we feel like the BO4 change has merit?
BO4 change is entirely predicated on the fact that it's like, we want, at least the way I feel with Chaos, we want to introduce 15 different special enemies. We want the game to be more kinetic, we want to have more variety. How do we get players to be able to fight those things in current systems of the undead? Because your weapon can't be too powerful. And that's where they came up with the idea of specialist weapons. Let's have one weapon always in your back pocket. And on 9, you are fighting gladiators by round 4. And if you don't get the strife immediately, how do you counter them? Well, you have a specialist weapon. That's your tool against them. You have lethal equipment, which is always insta-killing. You have a shield, which is always doing infinite damage, just like it was in BO3, due to health cap being lowered. You have all these different systems, and then you have the point system and how it reacts to all of that. With the point system, I think they just wanted to change it. I think BO4 is the only game where I don't really have enough of an answer as to why they would change it.
Okay, so
Because the systems don't play into it very well.
yeah, I would say we can characterize what you said for the greater range of enemies and things like that as essentially Treyarch wanted maybe to mess with the power curve just overall, and the relative power of the enemy that you're fighting at a given time versus what your expected power is on a given round, right? So, Gladiators round 4, normally you don't have to deal with that for a while longer. Even on a map like Origins, you're not fighting a Panzer on round 4, right?
Yes.
And Origins is probably the most notorious map of all time for, like, Jesus Christ, you hear that thing spawn in and you panic. And everybody dies there. Like, everybody dies there.
Yep.
There's no escaping it when you first play. So,
Oh, hello, Flock.
they wanted to change the power curve.
What's up? I don't know. How can I get these level? I'm trying to figure out. Sorry, I'll turn down the live commentary. Do you want wonder weapons in your classes? Is that possible? I don't even know if that's possible. Is that possible? I don't know. I'm just trying to get. I'm just trying to get every gun done so I could get dark matter, but I need to level up this sniper and this other sniper. And I tried last night to get all of these camos done, and I need to finish this one. And once I finish that, I can finish. We'll finish this one and finish this one, and finish all these, which is easy, and finish all these, which is easy. But then I get stuck right here. I have to level up the gun to level 40, which is retarded, and level 50. And I have a XP token, but I don't have very many like XP tokens. So what I was gonna do is every game I go in, maybe play for like essentially like 20, 30 minutes, whatever, get to around 30-ish, 40 maybe. And then I'm gonna try to complete these challenges maybe and see if I can use some XP while I play, maybe see if that does anything to help. But if you're watching, yeah, stay tuned if you just want to hear, Mr. Raffle Waffles and someone else talk about BO6. Yeah, just stay in here, chill. If you want to watch me grind, you can. If you get bored, feel free to click off or whatever. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to get all these guns gold and diamond because I want to use, for example, I want to use a sniper in multiplayer, but I want to use this camo or dark matter. I don't want to use the gold. The gold looks like shit. I want these two. These two are my favorite. I already have this camo on like every gun except the rocket. Or wait, no, or I already have the rocket launchers done. Like I have the assault rifles done. I got the shotguns done. I have the pistols done. I have some machine guns done. Like, all I'm missing is I don't have tac rifles done, I don't have light machine guns done, I don't have snipers done, and I don't have the knife and the special done. And that's because I don't have the guns or the weapons fully leveled up yet. Uh, and I can't get all the challenges done because I don't have all of them leveled up. Like, this gun, I already got done. This gun I'm almost done with, but the Pellington I'm almost done with, but I need to work on getting the gun leveled up. And that's what's kind of giving me a shitty processor, getting me stuck. Now, let me see. Maybe I'll put on this class. Maybe I'll try to start using this frost one. Or this frost one up here. I don't know. Because apparently that's a challenge in the double XP thing. Earn 2 strike, delivered medals, kill 5 or more enemies rapidly with an artillery strike. Oh, get kills, 25 kills with a grenade launcher support. Wait, grenade launcher support? Oh, that's the one that you gotta get out of the thing. Never mind. Alright, well, I'm gonna continue the commentary if you want to hear it or not. I'm watching it, or I'm listening to it.
Get that powerful, and then we really need the player to be able to counter that in some way, right? So specialist system makes sense as something that you can time to solve that problem at round 4, and it just then so happens to then solve that problem indefinitely for the rest of your playtime as well, right? So
Yeah.
you could almost boil it down to purely just wanting round 4 to be cool meant that we got the specialist system. Obviously, that's a crazy oversimplification, but let's frame it that way just for the time being. So
Yeah.
the point system, I would argue, could be a change that was made for 2 possible reasons. One is that with that new power curve in place, they probably just did a bunch of playtesting and realized that with the old system, it was too strongly mapped to the old power curve. Like, there was too much of an expectation that you would get Pack-a-Punch at a certain round, you would be spinning the mystery box on a certain round, and you would be doing those things because you'd be forced to by the enemies you'd be facing on given rounds, right? So it might have been that they were just like, this feels like old stuff, so let's just make our own new power curve entirely and a point system to match that. That might have been one part of it. The other part of it was, I think, a reaction to some of the things that the customs community had actually been experimenting with. So Quiz made TNG. Oh god, I can't remember the name of the map now, but it's the one with multiple floating islands. This is before Revelations came out. And
You have your
totally changed the point system, and she put in a system where basically you can use a shotgun. This is Quiz's thinking. You can use a shotgun and not be penalized for doing so, compared to using some other bullet weapon, because if I use a pistol, I'll get 1,000 points for shooting this zombie a bunch of times. But if I use a shotgun and I kill it straight away, I get less points. Like, why would I be penalized for using a powerful weapon? That sucks. So Quiz made that change. I think Treyarch saw that, to be honest, and they went, damn, that's actually a really good idea. And that was then the sort of ethos and the reason for why they did it. They were like, actually, we want these other weapons, these shotgun-like weapons, or bazooka, or whatever, to still be viable, rather than everybody being funneled towards high RPM weapons, right?
Yes.
So, still to some extent, with the point system, still sort of fixing issues that we had seen with the way players played the game in World at War and Black Ops 1, right? Like, that was still a sort of similarly motivated decision that they made there, I think. But the power curve thing, I think, is different. That is Treyarch no longer saying, this is just an axiom of what emerges from the game itself, from the sandbox that we've created. This is a natural emergence. But it was a little bit more Treyarch saying, this is no longer an organic emergence. We are going to force this emergence and then fit things through it. How do you feel about that?
I
Oh,
did
shoot.
some of their.
Should I? Dang it, I might need to end the game and restart it because I forgot to put on a double
There is room
XP
for that to
token.
actually be really good, because I don't want to just categorically carte blanche say, and therefore it's bad.
No,
What do you think of BO4's sort of gameplay and stuff overall? I'm curious.
So I love BO4's gameplay. It's my favorite game in the series, but it has a lot of issues. I can't deny that in the slightest. And I think one of the biggest issues is the power dynamic. Just because it's so different, they really wanted, like, for example, you fight the Giganese on round 4 or 5 in Ancient Evil. That's a mini boss. That's your Panzer on that map. Yep, they want you to fight him so early on. And I'd say that's part of what I love about it. I love the action of it. I love the fantasy of it. I love the scriptedness of some of the events and chaos. But I don't think it does everything right. I also think the idea of let's create a system and then let's create systems to answer those systems, because that's entirely what MWZ's philosophy is built on. Let's set the game for an hour long. Okay, well, since it's an hour long, we can give you schematics. We can give you perks for free. We can give you a ray gun, because you can only hold the weapon for an hour, and then you can't build it for a day or two. You don't have access to it anymore. So that was their way of balancing that. I don't like this idea that everything exists to validate itself in other systems. I think that's a bit of a bad game design decision. And I hope that's not the case. I might just be reading it. If I read it from the other direction, it might come off as better. Yeah, but I think from the direction that we're reading it from, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I think Modern Warfare Zombies is an interesting one because I think what I'm starting to see as we characterize it this way is that
You have
there's
your orders, strike team. Investigate the site.
a
Contain
root
the threat.
decision that the team wants to do almost as a stylistic choice,
Another homicide.
which then has a whole load of implications which touch and alter the axiomatic parts of the game that were established so long ago, right?
Yes.
And in Modern Warfare Zombies, it's the hour-long time limit, but I would actually argue that the hour-long time limit is itself actually like a second-order effect. And I think that the core with that is how do we put this on the Warzone map?
Oh, okay.
And I think that the decision to put it on the Warzone map has a few, I mean, it has a dozen consequences. One of them is it doesn't make sense to be on the Warzone map, but only in a team of 4 people. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But we want it to be on the Warzone map. Maybe we don't have time to develop any other maps as well, so we have to put it on the Warzone map.
Yes.
And therefore, we need more players in the game. What does more players in the game mean? It means matchmaking is going to be infinitely more difficult. It means that the actual compute, the load that needs to be undertaken in order to actually make the game run in the first place is also significantly greater, and that has to take place on a server. That can't take place on your local Xbox 360 or something. Like, it's just going to blow the thing up, right? You're going to have enough red rings of death to make the thing levitate. So the core, I think, is put it on the Warzone map, and then it's like, how the hell do we manage that? Well, we have to make all these unfortunate sort of second-order decisions, and I think the hour-long time limit means that there's still servers spinning up and spinning down, so the matchmaking is dreadful. It's kind of like it's a cap there. It also means that with a load of the other decisions they made, like how do we make a Warzone map feel like it's full, feel like there's stuff to do, well, let's put contracts in, and then it's like, okay, how do we make people not do too many contracts and get really bored of it? Well,
here's an hour-long time.
Exactly, right. So I think it's second order in that sense.
That's a good point, yeah.
But it really clearly is another case of almost like a BO4 where they were like, let's make a stylistic choice. Warzone map zombies. And then that really makes things crazy. And I would almost actually say, and I know I'm riffing a bit here, so forgive me for blabbering.
Oh, please, go for it, yeah.
But I would almost say the modern zombies formula that we, as a community in general, I'm speaking in very general terms here, that formula that we say online we dislike, and the calls that we've had over the years to like go back to round-based zombies and things like that, I actually feel like the request there is not a return to round-based zombies. I think that the request is a return to zombies gameplay based on axiomatic systems that don't have the stylistic injection that causes these deviations in various different directions with so many second and third order effects.
That's a good point, yeah, 100%. I think that the only issue with that is that like that's just so non-conducive to who Treyarch is. That's all I know about Treyarch. Treyarch does not want to do the same game twice. They are always experimenting, reinventing the wheel. They are never, let's do BO3 Part 2. It is, how do we take old systems, build upon them, add new stuff to them, make it interesting and unique? I think they're so afraid of every game coming off as samey, or a game after another comes off as very samey, which is actually happening right here with BO6. But like, you look at changes that they constantly make. You look at like Outbreak going to MWZ. It wasn't just let's do Outbreak again. Let's evolve on Outbreak. Outbreak is very boring when there's a lot of open space. You have contracts that are split across these massive maps. And now in MWZ it says let's put smaller ones everywhere. Your core progression isn't tied to doing a main objective. You get points, and then you work towards the story missions. You work towards the Aether Rings. You work towards endgame content. That leads to other issues between bottlenecks in Tier 3, which is what's happening. Competing with keeping contracts now. It doesn't flow as well because Tier 3 doesn't change size. The map didn't evolve. There wasn't more things to explore besides Stark Aether Rings. But your bottleneck can go into them.
I can't aim.
So I think every change, in my optimistic perspective, is with good intentions. I just think sometimes it falls to the wayside. Sometimes they don't do it right. Sometimes they're just like, we didn't do this idea well. Let's redo it the second time around and do it better. But then there's also issues again. Yeah. I'm currently working on 2-hour MWZ video, and my ending points come out to the game is fun. It has a ton of issues that excuse itself, but I think this is a great foundation again to build off of for their next experience. But at the same time, we can't keep just building off of something. You need to actually land with these ideas. I'm getting sick of saying, well, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. I understand this. But can we get a good idea that's not excusing itself as like COVID? Or Treyarch was pulled off of this game to work on Vanguard. Or their B team is their open world team, which is working on MWZ. When does this end? When am I going to and BO6 for a ton of people? This is their end point. This is there's no more excuses on the line. There are 4 years in this game. Treyarch do or die. Because people are willing to let them die at this point, if it's not what they're looking for.
So,
I know that was a lot, sorry.
No, but with that in mind then, do you feel like they stuck the landing with Cold War, just to quickly check that?
Yeah, okay. With the time given, with the constraints given, with the way they manage all the resources, 100%. I love it. Despite its issues that it has.
Okay, so
I think it lands with what it wants to do, which is reinvent zombies after BO4 nearly blew up the series.
Yeah, okay. So why is Black Ops 6 so similar to Cold War?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they really like that gameplay style. Maybe they said, let's not take it in another wild direction. We found one that's stuck with a good player base. Let's just build off of that first and go from there. Because BO4, they had to change it. That was so radically different that people were so disdained against it that they had to go back to the drawing board and say, let's not do that. We figured out what some players don't like. Specialists didn't work. Remakes didn't work, which is a whole different conversation. And then they said, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's do Dark Ether. Let's get people coming into this world. Cold War is your first act, the second, almost the third act. They need to stick this land. Where if you want to develop a cohesive story and narrative, it has to kind of be very similar to the previous game to build off of it. In the same way that BO2 builds off of BO1. They just chose Cold War because that's the game that those developers are familiar with. That's the one that they probably find that their favorite is because that's the one they worked on the most.
Yeah.
And then the nitty-gritty is style, HUD, optimization. That's where you get into the more nitty-gritty. But overall, this is a game that they really want to tell a story.
Yeah,
so that's why they chose you.
Do you feel like BO2 would I be putting words in your mouth to say you feel like BO2 is BO 1.5?
Yes. Okay. Taking BO1 to the next level. That's what BO2 is.
Okay.
Because I think BO1's a great. I think BO1 is my favorite of the series over BO4. I think it stands the test of time better than any of the other ones. But BO2 is absolutely, let's add buildables. Let's add more special enemies. Let's add a mini-boss. Let's get crazier with the one quest. Let's add 2 quests per map. Let's add an overarching narrative. We build on top of it. The Moon has that. You have connections to, you have a carryover from Call It in Shangri-La. You need to do those through the full release thread. And then the end games and Buried are just like that.
Okay, so with that analog in mind, that we can sort of, without any ill will towards BO2, we can call it BO 1.5.
Yes.
BO6 being Cold War 1.5. Do we think that's fair?
That's a bit of it's a different conversation. I think Cold War is a more constricted game. This is definitely Cold War II with what they're able to expand upon, whereas Cold War is so much more limited in scope of what they could do.
What do you
I
feel like makes that
is,
not a 1.5?
but I will say that is fair that Cold War. I think that's entirely conjecture of just do you think Cold War was constricted by its time constraints and its development cycle, and then Cold War, BO6 is the evolution completely on that, whereas BO2 is both games got full development cycles. Let's just build on top of that and then focus on maps. Whereas Cold War is trying so desperately hard to work its way out of the constraints that, it's working its way out of hell. BO6 is the same thing. It's working its way right out of NWZ, Vanguard, Cold War. And I think that shows in Liberty Falls, which is the style isn't that strong. Art isn't that well looked at. They've taken a ton of our complaints into mind. They've heard a lot of what we had to say. But sadly, I think some things just fall to the wayside. It stops becoming an excuse of, well, they need more time, they need more development. Ideas suggest maybe that's just not their strong suit anymore. It's not going to be as good.
Yeah, maybe.
Which I think is what's happening with Liberty Falls. I think it's past the point of excuses.
If, again, with a strong caveat, if it is in line with our pessimistic assumptions as to how it is, because who knows if they turn on that Easter egg quest and suddenly the map's inverted and it's sick. Like, something that I've not really known how to appropriately convey this point in a lot of my videos, because I say this a lot, but people just selectively don't listen to it because they really like when I critique the game, but they don't like when I praise it.
Oh my god, don't even be started on that.
But, like, I mean, yeah, for anyone online that's voiced an opinion about it, I suppose it's not just me, although I feel like I get a pretty sharp part of the spear on that.
I got signal locked on. We're back to business. What happened? Satellite malfunction?
The Liberty Falls map itself might be a 10 out of 10.
It really could be.
We don't.
Yes. It really could be.
We don't know.
We don't know.
And I would love for it to be, because it's much better for all of us if it's a 10 than if it's a 4 and we were right that it was a 4. Like,
yep.
I'll take a 10 every time.
I think the COD Next gameplay has backfired so badly, it's not even funny. Where it's like, this is the first time they've ever done that, and I think they really wanted to appeal to the MP Warzone people in the same way that they wanted to show Warzone and MP off to the Zombies people. Because, like, you look at Dalek's gameplay, they wanted him off of Zombies to show Warzone. Because he had all those Zombies people. They know that they want to market, that's a new crowd. They want to get those people into Warzone MP.
Yeah. And on that point, just as a very quick tangent, I really didn't like the way that they kicked Dalek off. But then,
oh my god, I thought that was so unprofessional.
Yeah,
the way they handled it was really bad.
Yeah, it really, really bad vibes overall. And then Dennis just still playing and it being fine. It just felt like, oh, because you're the Zombies guy, you don't have any agency here whatsoever. But like this other dude who like is a little bit less close to Call of Duty, we'll just give him whatever he wants, kind of thing. It's like Dalek's been here so long.
I know.
Like, I don't know. It just felt really sort of off. That moment where he was kicked, I'm just like, why?
Like, it was really cool to see Dalek on the podcast with him afterwards. That was cool.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but it's Zombies to be represented on it. Like, good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's cool. But for every like 2 steps we get forward, I feel like it's 1 step back sometimes. I think that was so calculated. They knew Duke Dennis's crowd doesn't play Zombies, so they really wanted to show that off to those guys. They knew Dalek's crowd doesn't play Warzone, so they really wanted to show that off to those guys. They're trying to. That's why we'll never get a Zombies exclusive game, Because they know if they do
Picking
that,
up
they
an
cut their audience.
unidentified hostile approaching your
Yeah.
position.
And
Things practically glowing.
the zombies community will still pull over.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
We are who we are, right?
But that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, it's like Call of Duty knows for a fact that that's why they keep doing zombies, even if the games don't do well. Sometimes those are still sales. I bought MWZ because I'm a zombie. I wouldn't have bought Modern Warfare if it
Can't
didn't
leave the
help.
job
Yeah,
half done.
hands down.
And so that's how they got me. So that's why they know for a fact they're trying to expand their crowd, get the widest net possible. And I don't know if that dictates their decisions to implement Warzone mechanics, if that implements set a map that looks like an MP map.
You got
And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that's the reason why. But as we talked earlier, at some point that stops being the excuse, and that just has to be maybe they're just not good at developing unique maps. So hopefully Terminus proves me wrong.
Yeah, I think it will. I think Terminus is very cool looking from the jump. From the moment you spawn in, it feels cool.
Raptor 1 is nearby.
I will say
Exfil window is
it
short.
feels
so
like
take it now if you're ready.
a Cold War level of cool, as opposed to like a Moon level of cool, for example.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think
I get that.
the old days of the moons and things like that are, and I want to say this with the prayer going up to Kevin Drew in the heavens that you prove me wrong here, Kevin Drew. But I think those old days are over. I think that there is a type of aesthetic, a type of goal for zombies overall, which is no longer the bombastic stuff that we once had. I think that's tragic in my personal opinion, but some people prefer stuff like that, I suppose. So,
Yeah, I think that goes in multiple directions. You have, did Kevin Drew get promoted under the direction and plan that he needs to get zombies out to more people? Like, we look at Jason Mundell going to Kevin Drew.
You
whoever
were
was
never
running it there.
surviving the sea.
Oh, it was Corky, yeah. So,
Turn
I
your
mean,
face
is Corky
into
still
a
there?
ghost.
Yep.
Get it?
Okay, yeah. So then I wonder if, like, going from Corky to Kevin, they said, this is our action plan. BO4 blew up in everyone's faces. People weren't playing. Numbers weren't there. You need to get the game to a wider audience. That's our division directed plan that you need to fulfill, kicking you out of this.
yeah, I suspect that it is. I think that
Yeah.
ultimately what has most likely happened is that Activision have called up Corky one day and said, just to sort of reiterate to the cluster, you might have had an incredible amount of success with like Black Ops 3 and all these previous games that he's also worked on, obviously. But these days, we make the most money from Warzone selling skins to people that don't hit level 30. And where's the zombies equivalent, right?
I'll let
So
you
we've
know
just
when
sort
the
of
next
trended in
one's
that direction, and I don't think he can get away from that. I don't think any of them can, and I don't think that's their fault in some ways. But this is a point that I think my audience sort of misunderstands sometimes. I can recognize that Kevin Drew is trying to do the best he absolutely can, or he's trying to do the best he absolutely can, etc., while also condemning the decisions that are made as bad decisions because they ultimately have been made under the shadow of Warzone being the boss.
Yes,
right?
100%. Yes, this is such a nuanced conversation, and I hate the way people talk about it. Everyone just wants to pull one way or another because it's the thing that everyone does.
That doesn't
And
mean
it's so much more difficult to like talk about this than ever. Yeah, and everyone just wants to say, "Oh, Kevin doesn't care. Division doesn't care." That's not the case. These developers. This is our first kid. We've practiced. Also, let's do it.
at least it won't.
Let's do this.
My road.
Division doesn't care. That's not the case. These developers, I know for a fact, care a crap ton about this game and this series. But at the same time, I brought something in a Cold War video. I can love what they did. I can understand the circumstances that they're under. But at the same time, I can also rate it as such. I can look at it as such. And I think so many people are just willing to say, "Oh, it's Warzone-ified, bad game. Oh, it's not BO3, bad game. Oh, they don't care." Yeah, I've never been to Treyarch. You have been. You can say it more than anybody. I know for a fact that these developers care more than anybody about this.
Yeah. The irony is that the devs, they actually truly do, like, people say, like, blood, sweat, and tears, right? That the Treyarch devs are fine.
Yes. Oh my god. I cannot imagine what they're going under at all times. It, like, let me pull away my criticism of any of the games.
Yeah.
For God's sake, I thank you for trying, guys. Thank you so much for trying. I understand. Like, I know Kevin Drew leaves Twitter sometimes because people are terrible. Please don't let that discourage you. You guys are doing an amazing job. I understand this is probably the hardest thing to do. Like, imagine the worst job you ever worked times 2, and the people you're working for don't even like you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wrong answer.
it's not a job that I would ever say is easy. I think you
Didn't
never
learn
say it's easy.
anything the first time you died.
Yes, and I think it's wrong to say that. For example, Liberty Falls does not look super stylized. In fact, it looks unstylized. It looks seasoned. Does that mean that the devs are lazy? Crucially, it doesn't.
No.
It's just that I think that there are broader decisions being made, there are broader pieces in play, and I often refer to this in my videos as like the lumbering Division machine, which is this massive architecture that is you almost can't point to a single person and say that's the Activision machine. It sort of doesn't work that way in some ways.
Oh my god.
But this lumbering beast is wandering sort of Goliath through the countryside towards this faint light in the distance, which is another $1 billion. And on its journey there, certain things fall off the machine, certain things become less important, certain things get crushed under its boot. And I think that the old style of zombies and many of the things that people fell in love with about zombies over the years have been victim to that falling by the wayside. Yes. But I don't think that means that the devs don't give a damn. I think in some instances, it could mean that the beast is going in that direction with such ferocity that the team then is like, okay, well, we're piloting the beast, so we're all driving in this direction. And that might then mean that they have certain blind spots to problems and needs and concerns that the zombies community has over here. And I think it's valid to say Treyarch is missing something here. Treyarch is not speaking to our interests. Treyarch is marketing this poorly. Treyarch is designing for a different archetype of player that's no longer me, and that sucks. All those things can be true. I just think that there's a little extra layer of nuance required, which is that I don't think Kevin Drew, because I've seen this a couple of times on Twitter recently, I don't think Kevin Drew hates the zombies community and is a lazy dev that only cares about making a game for his brother. I think that is just too reductive.
100%. Like, I got called, the tweet that, got us this whole conversation that you really liked, I got called a rat for, saying, you just want the bare minimum, you're such a rat, and I'm like, whoa, what? I can be excited, I can still say the game is, poorly made, I'm just an excited guy who likes zombies. I'm a sycophant. But that doesn't excuse me. I like this. I like the idea that you said that everyone wants to point to one person. You've got Jimmy's run, Jason's run, Kevin's run, when that is almost the quite literal opposite from the truth. That, it is hundreds of people that work on games that go into the music, the level layout, the overall production, the directing style, the writing, the animation, the gameplay, the weapons. Zombies is almost not conducive to what Call of Duty is. At this point, it's just lucky that it built enough of a fan base when it started to not die off. Yeah, so true. I mean, you look at 2018 BO4, they put so much money into that, and I can't imagine Activision was just waiting to add this mode off and never look at it again after how horribly that failed. After how much money they put into it.
These days are crazy.
They probably wanted to murder every zombie dev in that room. Like, get out of here. Get out of here. And, is that their fault? Is it the community's fault? That's so incredibly nuanced.
Yeah, I've seen this on Twitter a bit recently, because there's been people saying, there's a tweet I saw the other day that said something along the lines of, people give too much credit to Jason and Jason's era of zombies.
So unbelievable these days.
I posed the question in response saying, is it wrong to attribute that period of time to Jason. Because I really see both sides of the coin on this. On the one hand, everything came across Jason's desk. Like, it just did. And Jason was the kind of director who he's so involved in of things in such a big way that, yes, I think it's fair to attribute the overall feel and the vibe and the cohesion of a game like Black Ops 3 to him. I don't think you can take that away from him, which I think some people want to do, but I don't think you can. Does that mean that there weren't hundreds of people putting things on his desk for him to approve? No, obviously those people were still there. They were still doing great work. They're still responsible for the art they created. But I kind of feel like I'm torn when people say, oh, well, you can't say it's like the Kevin True era because it's not. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, sure, okay, let's call it the Corky era, really, if we want to draw the same comparison. Yes. And then I would say it is the Corky era in many ways. I don't think we can say, oh, just because it's a team effort doesn't mean that ultimately the buck doesn't stop Corky. I think it does. And I think there's quite a lot of confusion about that just in general in the zombies community, where we want to be able to praise a brand, but then when we try and find a target for the praise or a target for critique or whatever, it starts getting really nebulous because the structure of it is how do we have Jimmy starting as an animator after a totem, and how do we then map that to like Jason coming in and doing directing stuff in Bob, and like and then with Kevin, like Kevin is not creative director. I think he's an associate design director, I'm pretty sure. So like there's differences to all of these things. They're not one-to-one comparable. I think it kind of makes the conversation a little tricky at times.
Yes, it does, and I think so many people want easy answers. So many people just want to pick a person and lift them up and punch them down. And I think that's more considered culture. That's more just our modern culture. Everyone wants to find easy solutions to every problem. And I think the mature part of being a zombies fan is realizing that it's
Looks like our strike team found part of the fight.
and
Any idea what it is?
On that point, let me just ask,
From our world.
people want someone to lift up and then punch
Some
down.
sort of interdimensional scanner.
Do you think part of why Jason, overall, all things considered, do you think part of the reason why Jason is so respected is not actually because of the maps themselves or whatever, but do you think it's because he played the part of being someone that we could lift up and then punch down so well? Like, he was the figurehead, just categorically, in a way that Jimmy never was, and that Kevin Drew certainly never has been, and Corky will never be either, because as far as I'm concerned, Corky just doesn't like the limelight, which is fine. It's fair enough. It's not his job.
Yeah.
Do you think Jason like gets more points just from having been willing to be a bit more of a public personality?
100%. You look at Lee Ross, who did the exact same thing. You look at Cameron Dayton, who at least tried to do some of that. And I think he understood that's something the community wanted, that you need something to rally behind. And I do think that's people are trying to apply that to Kevin, and that's just
I feel like
he's just not.
Get back on your
in an ideal world,
Get
when
artillery
Kevin
on
rolls-
target.
Yes, there should be someone designated. But at the same time, that person needs to be. They know they need to basically wear a armor vest wherever they go, because they will be the target just about everywhere. And I think Kevin was willing to do that, and then he kind of took it back for a while. He's like, that's not a good idea. And I do think it also kind of pulls the parasocial relationship with the fans and prayer. And much of a good relationship that we have with them, I think it gets a little too close sometimes, it gets a little too heated. And I think I'm not going to say Jason allowed that to happen, because that's something that you do in video games. You're supposed to do that. That's how you market the game. That's how you connect with an audience. But I think Kevin realized that, took a bit more of a step back, still communicated. He talked with John Rizzo a lot. He learned a lot from him and made adjustments to Cold War's gameplay. Rampage Inducer, health cap, weapon balancing. He talked a lot with the community during Cold War, but then after that he took a step back because he knew that wasn't the smartest thing to do. And also doesn't help that leads to a lot of eyes.
Window closed.
Yeah, he's crossed the road the road of no return, the point of return.
It's across the Rubicon.
Yes, and he's now stuck in that position where now everything in this run will be flying right in under him unless someone else comes up and says, "I'm the new Kevin."
Yeah, it's real tight. I've met Kevin.
I'll see him at the Terminus event.
So yeah. I'm referring to this was further back in time. I met up with him, and one of the points that I really tried to get across to him is the figurehead sort of position that Jason Schroeder's like to. Whether or not you agree with Jason's design decisions, whether or not you like his maps, whether or not you think the next company, good thing or a bad thing or whatever, pass that all aside. I am of the opinion that him being conceivably leaned in and involved rooting for us and fighting for us, as he was immeasurably good for some community. Yeah. There's been a vacuum since he left, and then easily could step into that role, or elevate somebody else to be in that role. I'm not saying it needs to be just manager, but there needs to be someone that feels like they seniority in the company that is actually fighting for zombies' best interests. What it really felt like Jason was doing. And I think Kevin's done a little bit of that, don't get me wrong, but certainly in a very different way. So I tried to sort of make the case for him. Should you or somebody else do that, it would have such good ramifications for the way the community felt like it was being spoken to at the time, for the way that it felt like our voices were being treated, whether we were being heard or not. If we really feel heard, there's somebody out there speaking our language, talking to us as peers almost, in the way that Jason kind of did. And he has done a little bit of that since then, and he's also not done a little bit of that since then. He's kind of ripped his own path. That's fun, I would never say he has been, but yes, I think it's kind of, it is a loss of community overall, and it's kind of led to various narratives spiraling in a way that they wouldn't normally spiral.
Yeah.
You're right.
Jason established why it was
New
and
gun,
then
new rules.
Kevin Drew is dealing with an impossible task that was basically forced upon him by the community. Because the community really wants that. And he just might not want that as, like, that might just not be something he thinks about as a developer.
Yeah.
But Jason established why it's important.
And Kevin's busy, and I get that. He's trying to design a game, and I get that. But again, if you're going to spend, let's say, $1 billion making a video game, and then another $1 billion marketing it, and one small tweak to that formula of like Kevin saying, okay, someone else on the team is going to be elevated into this position now. That's going to be the person. If that's the sort of thing that's going to.
Have you heard of Robin Gold? No, what is that? You can earn 5% APY on your idle cash.
It's into this position now. That's going to be the person. If that's the sort of thing that's going to meaningfully impact $1 billion in marketing spend, I feel like it's
Yes, I would say, give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
We know it works, so do
Yeah.
it. And like, you know, you have like, is your current community manager? You know?
I mean, it's there's several people.
Several.
As well. Social. Reddit, there's Foxy, and there's Bed Lewis, and there's Cameron.
So I mean, at that point, one of them's got maybe they got to hire someone to do zombies specifically. Maybe they got to hire someone to do it more. Maybe they got to just put someone in that role. Pick somebody because it's important. You got to find the right person for it, but you also got to do it at the same time. This is something that's pretty important to how this game works. Like Cold War was good. Vanguard and MWZ, we've gotten almost none of that. It's radio silence.
So, with that said, you are the pessimist and I am the optimist. How do you feel overall about Year 6's Zombies marketing? What's the temperature?
Yes. Okay, I love the marketing. I think the marketing is really cool. I'm a big information guy. I love getting information, absorbing it. I'm super big on spoilers. I'll spoil myself to the high end.
Okay, just like very weird.
Yeah. Well, because I would watch like your guys' videos. I would watch
Give me
like
some text.
the Easter eggs. I wanted to see how it ended, and then I wanted to make those pieces myself. Okay. Yeah, that's how I get engaged. Like I like looking at what's how does the movie like if I'm interested in the idea how does it end, and I gotta watch it now to see how it ends. But I'm also it's such a weird thing. Yeah, that's it. They have a special marketing for another. But marketing tool is the context gameplay. I like it. I think I like some gameplay. I like it comfortable with what it looks like oh, excited. It's most definitely backfired.
I'm wearing the mask. That doesn't mean I can't aim.
Do you feel like they should do the context marketing? Zombies, guys. Yeah. If you really want to show that you trust, zombies, get a few more of those guys out there. Get MZC out there. Get you out there. Get Dalek and Noah out there. Get a bunch of the new guys too. Get Chopper, Tim Hansen. You got to get Shrevington out there. You got to get all these new people that are coming to the community.
You think
You got to rip those people up.
If it was Terminus, would you have felt like
No,
that would have been spoiling the surprise?
That would have been spoiled the surprise, but same. Let me ask you actually. Do you think that would have spoiled the surprise? Since you played it, you won't say anything that you can't say. But do you think that would have spoiled some things if people had saw it?
Yeah, it's not so much stuff that I can't say, but more so. We had. I feel like we had such a good month of zombies mounting, and
to end it off.
I mean, next was next was the sort of first L in a month of W's.
Yes.
And so would I have preferred, for example, to swap it around so that I played Liberty Falls, and then
You wanted to be in the spotlight?
a month later they showed Terminus and Next? I think I probably would have preferred that, all things considered, because Next was more important for us to see. But
Those ones are
I think if I'd only played Liberty Falls at the preview event a month earlier, I would have come away and struggled to not make my Liberty Falls video regardless. I think that was sort of destined no matter what almost, so...
Just because of the way the map is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, and so is the swap
Raptor
of the
1 in
two
range for
the solution?
extraction.
Maybe not. Does that mean that some other path is where like they only show Terminus, for example? I also think no, because if we only saw Terminus going into launch and then the game came out and Liberty Falls was as Liberty Falls is, people would have been so mad.
Yeah. Oh my, that might have been even a bigger meltdown. So I don't know
Exactly.
I don't know what the right choice is here right now.
So my view is that the biggest problem of all is not what Liberty Falls looks like. It's not that it looks like Cold War. It's not the Warzone systems. It's once again Treyarch's biggest issue, which is poor expectations. And
they do a really bad job of that.
yeah, and had they gone in to Next and said, okay, this is the zombies segment. It's going to be 30 minutes of gameplay. It's unfinished gameplay. You're only going to see the normal part of the map, and they can use very ambiguous language, right? They need not say we're hiding the underground secret experimental bunker. They don't need to even go that far, nor do they need to show footage of it necessarily. But they just need to say you are going to see just a slither of this map. Maybe they give us a percentage. Say it's 20% of the play space, right? So long as that ambiguity is there and they're making it abundantly clear that it's early and the even the Easter eggs being turned off, right? They told us that, and that's fine. But we're zombies players, and we understand Easter eggs being turned off through one lens of how we talk about the game.
What's up, Oceanside? I'm Chelsea, the lead trainer here at Burn Camp Oceanside. And as a mom of three,
we understand Easter eggs being turned off through one lens of how we talk about the game. but we don't necessarily know if Easter eggs being turned off means that, like when you spawn in, it's actually totally different because in the map itself, the Easter egg is so intertwined with round 1 that they had to give us a different experience in Empty Falls, for example, right? Or sorry, a different experience in Next. Like, we don't know what is or isn't off based on Easter eggs being turned off because we have an understanding of these, but Treyarch has an understanding of what's actually in the game, right? So and said Easter eggs are off, blah 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 is locked, blah 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 is shut off. That's going to mean that rounds 1 to 10 are missing a key detail which changes the experience completely, and it means that this endgame area is actually not going to transform in the way that it maybe it will do later on. You don't have to show it, but just give us a feeling that there is more there, and then I think
that would do better.
Yeah, combined with only 5 minutes of gameplay, which I think was also a mistake they made. They should have limited it. That would have resulted in all of the content being, okay, this little sliver looks kind of open and yeah, it's bright and stuff, but Treyarch themselves have told us there's 80% of the map undiscovered. And there's going to be some kind of massive feature that we're missing that actually changes the experience, so we can't judge just yet. Because they didn't do those things well enough, we're having to basically give benefit of the doubt that there's an underground area. But that's
like I have to hope that there's a dark ether section during the egg because like I have nothing to go off of, but because I've basically seen everything, I have to pray that there's more that might not even be there.
Yeah, and so either it's pure copium, and the map's going to come out, and we're going to be disappointed again because our expectations have run away from themselves.
Because we set ourselves our own things. We're like, there has to be, dude, Tog, Revelation, Transit, there has to be more. there isn't, and that's what gets a lot of people.
Yeah, so that I think is the key mistake with Next is it's all framing ultimately, and I think that boils back down to the fact that they don't have a zombies person talk to us as zombies fans, and who knows what zombies fans would expect. And instead, you have people that are probably on the Activision team, not on the Treyarch team, but you probably have Activision PR people who are saying, we're going to show this part of the game, and overall it's mostly a multiplayer event, and like, yeah, they'll play zombies, we'll just let them play zombies for like half an hour. Sure. And then Treyarch, separate to that, is going, oh well, if they're playing zombies, we have to turn off the Easter eggs because we don't want to spoil our story, so Treyarch is sort of doing that thing to the side almost. Then the end result is this piece of meat being put on everyone's plate, and the meat's grey, and it's got no salt on it, and it's not even really cooked, and you're just like, wait, but that's like Wagyu beef, that's like premium steak that you're putting on my plate there, but there's just all these other circumstances that are making it unappetizing. I think those circumstances are avoidable.
Yes. I don't think it helped that at the end of the term is gameplay. Because Treyarch loves their games so much, they're so confident in them, they're like, Liberty Falls gameplay. Yes, everything's a 10 out of 10 to them, but that doesn't set very good expectations if you do that. Yeah, it shows confidence in yourself that you can do that and what you're making, that if you feel like everything you're making is a 10 out of 10, maybe they thought people would feel bad. Nah, people, and you know what? The trailer got people super hyped, they didn't really limit the scope of what the gameplay would be, and that backfired.
So, on that note, even with all that stuff said, you're still a Liberty Falls enjoyer.
I am. I'm excited, and I'll know 100% more when the game comes out.
Yeah, and right at the start of this, you said that you actually are in a place now where you prefer Weaver and Weaver's story and everything going on with him in gaps between Cold War and now. You prefer that and exploring that to Richburn and exploring what's going on with Richburn in Liberty Falls and thereafter. Just justify your opinion to me, because I'm so curious.
Yes, I'm super engrossed in the narrative of Cold War. I think the intel system, as much as I love it, it wasn't done the best, but I read every piece of intel. I got super into Weaver's story, his connection with Samantha, with his connection with Richtofen, with his connection with being a CIA director, or not CIA director, just handler. I was super engaged in his narrative, and I think they've really taken a character from Black Ops 1's campaign, who didn't really get to do a whole lot, and they've just taken him and run with him. I've seen Richtofen's story for over 15 years now. And it's 15 years, wow.
Terrifying.
Yes. and I'm just about. I think there's an interesting stuff they can do with him in this game, but I've had my fill. Let's do something new. And Richtofen can be a side character in that narrative.
I'm making
Wow,
a move.
Richtofen can be a side character. Those are fighting words right there.
Yeah, I know. I like Richtofen. He's one of my favorite characters, but actually Diego is. But I'm super engaged.
No, stop. What?
I love Diego, man. He's so bombastic. He's so intelligent. He's more than just a ladies' man. He's always like critically thinking. He sees stuff no one else sees. He can the shot in Age of Evil where he's translating the Greek and it says "Know thyself" and it translates in English for us to read. I think it's so cool. He's the one to pick up on the cult with their mask, not the poisonous infecta. He picks up on the Nidhogg being the Ivotan being the Nidhogg from the Tree of Yggdrasil during Voyage. He's so calculating. He wants to write.
Like, it was mind-blowing to have other people see something I've made and then like it once myself. And actually, feel grateful to have, like, my concept of fun.
He wants to write an adventure series. He writes dime novels, but he's so much more intelligent than that. There's no depth to his character, but I just love that machismo, that absolute gung-ho energy. 1 second, let me hold that thought.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I really respect the commitment to the Diego bit. That's incredible. I would never have thought that even possible. So fair enough, man.
I'm a big fan of this character. Anyways, back to what we were talking about, though. I think Weaver becomes super three-dimensional in Cold War, and I need to play it, so I need to see how the story continues. It's just something that's so engaging to me personally.
Wow, okay, so when you saw the Terminus intro, you probably losing your mind at that.
I was excited. Yeah, I was excited to see how the characters interact. I love that. I like this crew. I like these characters. In my Cold War review, I brought up the crew should have been these guys. So I was super excited to see them finally go through with it.
Do you think the Cold War story versus BO2 story, let's say, as you said that one was not BO1, BO4 were like up there as your top one. So let's say BO2. Cold War story versus BO2 story. What do you prefer?
Probably Cold Wars. Cold Wars is a full fleshed out narrative. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. It's obvious with its mysteries. It wants you to get engaged though. It's super surface level. That depends on who you are. I'm a big fan. I've been following developments for 10 years, so I can follow the whole narrative easily through. I can tell you everything that there's to know about Transdara's Buried, Mob Dead Origins. I'm of the belief that Origins should have just been a reset point, so that might also dictate my opinion too. Origins should have completely reset it, and you can reference stuff, but I think the story gets messy as you get into BO3, as much as I love BO3.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's part of detriment. Whereas in Cold War, they have a story that they want to tell. They're just so limited by the circumstances that they have, and I think they pull it off with enough interest that I'm engaged. I know most people aren't, but I am.
Okay.
I know for a lot of people, they want to see Richtofen. That's their hook.
Yeah, I think they just. I think also part of it is that they just don't want to know what Richtofen's going to do. Like, Cold War just felt so telegraphed to me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, there's a fine line between foreshadowing and hand holding and babying people. And I feel like Cold War was, personally, my read on it is that Cold War was exclusively the babying. And that, well, go ahead.
Finish thought, sorry.
Just that kind of alienated me a bit compared to the chaos of the old story that felt like it really pulled me in. I felt like I was pushed out by Cold War.
Because I think that's because there's no mystery. There's nothing to latch on to until, like, basically right at the last minute, they pull you in with, like, Richtofen. Liberty Falls, they pull you in with his family. They pull you in with the fire, but there's not enough of that. There's not enough what's actually, like, we can kind of get a read on it.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also the fundamental, like, why do you care? I feel like in Cold War, part of the why you care is because you're just meant to care about private military corporations.
It doesn't help that you don't play as these guys. You don't get to, like, be them, and that's something I hate about Cold War.
Yeah.
These guys should have been the crew from the start, because no one can care about them if you can't play as them. They don't have any growth, because they're just guys behind a computer.
Yeah, and just on top of that, also just the sort of concept of of a PMC as like a cool entity just doesn't resonate with me. Like, I've never liked that in the COD campaigns. I don't like it in Modern Warfare Zombies. Like, okay, cool, more PMCs. I'm bored. And this goes for other games as well, like in Borderlands, for instance. I don't care about all the weapons manufacturers. I don't care. Like, it's just not interesting to me. And the old story didn't need any of that, right? I didn't need PMCs to care about secret occult experimentation happening in Lower Silesia, right? So in that regard, that I think is where Cold War didn't fit for me. It's not just the lack of mystery, but it's then also the stuff that isn't mysterious is inherently dull in Cold War to me compared to the non-mysterious stuff in the past, which had inherent thing to it, which I feel like has been missing. So,
100%. That's totally fair.
Black Ops 6
They
is
charge me with assault.
the make or break, I suppose, because, as you said, it doesn't have those deal breakers. It doesn't have those hindrances, those friction points, those hurdles in the Cold War experience. And so, if they can achieve what you've said, right, like they've set table stakes there, if they can achieve a story that does have some mystery now, it does start to get a bit more interesting. Now that they've budget, time, etc. Hell yeah, maybe we'll all get back and forth. But yes, my fear is that time was not the reason why PMCs were boring. PMCs being boring is the reason why PMCs are boring. That's my fear. Maybe I'm just too cynical, too skeptical. Remains to be seen, I suppose.
Yeah, these are super good points. I think that we're gonna find out, I suppose. Yeah, the Cold War was such a setup game, and everyone is sick and stuff now. You gotta pull an action plan on this.
I've got the weapon.
Because if you don't, this is the make or break. You set it up, you run out of runway, start to get ready to fly, or it's going down.
Yep.
We're gonna find out.
So, it's been lovely talking today. For folks listening, where can they find you? I'll put your links in the description. Let's just do that. That makes life
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at Stanley557. I make multi-hour-long videos, and I talk way too much about Call of Duty. I can analyze this series probably better than anybody. So,
hell yeah. All right, well, great to talk to you today, and hopefully this has been some interesting food for thought for everyone listening as well.
I'm Chris Duncan. I was prosecuting drug smugglers at Homeland Security. There's
an extra window available.
Protecting our families was my only focus. That's missing in Sacramento. And that's why I'm running for the Assembly.
At the end of this video, we'll finally answer the question, is Black Ops 6 worth it? Without further ado, let's get into the video. As we dive in... multiplayer, let me know down below if you're interested in a similar style of video for zombies and Warzone. And I played way too much of the closed beta weekend, so I have a very good grasp on where multiplayer is at in its current state. So let's start with the pros. And as we get into the pros of Black Ops 6 so far, if you're interested in Black Ops 6, you'll want to stay tuned for class setups, spots, movement guides. Everything's going to be right here on this channel, so subscribe for more. And the first pro of the Black Ops 6 beta is the maps, or the map. Sadly, there's only one really good map in Black Ops 6, and it's Skyline. Of course, we're going to talk about the other maps once we get to the cons, but Skyline itself is really good. If they could just kind of recreate that similar flow and similar style for the rest of the maps that released with Black Ops 6, we're in for a good year. Unfortunately, as we'll talk about a little bit later, some of these maps don't really feel like Call of Duty to me. I like that they're going in a smaller direction for some of these maps, but it just doesn't have that Treyarch feel, or even that Call of Duty feel for some of these maps. Can't really put my finger on why, but of course we'll talk about that when we get to it. But putting all those aside, I think Skyline is a really cool map because not only does it look good aesthetically, it's got that sunset or sunrise off in the distance. You have the pool in the middle. You have the different areas like the kitchen, the upstairs, even the underground vent. The
concept of the map is neat, and even in that P2 area where you can close the security doors, I could see that being used even in pro play, simply because there's two different switches in the ground. So that might add an extra layer to locking down that hill. But everything else about the map feels very good. It's definitely a medium-sized map, but it has the pacing of a small map. You know, pretty much every time that you go onto that catwalk and top to the side, one flat with the staircase to either side. So like I said, Skyline has a lot of depth to it, and it looks good, and it plays good. So more maps like that. Up next, we're going to talk about the Omni movement and the movement chaining. Omni movement was something I was kind of nervous about leading up to Black Ops 6, especially in the beta as it gets to the end. People, I imagine it would be something similar to jetpacks in the jetpack Call of Duties, where it adds a skill gap, yes. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. I figure the majority of the casual player base is going to hate it. The cool thing about Omni movement is that it's not necessarily a threat. Jetpack types have fired. Had to use it to challenge certain gunfights. In Black Ops 6, if you don't want to use Omni movement, just don't. You can just run forward, you can slide forward, you can dive forward, whatever you want to do. Yes, you're putting yourself at a slight disadvantage if you don't take the time to fully learn Omni movement and what it can do to help you mid-gunfight, but it's not a huge enough disadvantage to where casual players are missing out by not using it. That being said, I already have my first Omni movement tutorial. Check out my channel for that, or I'll timestamp it above. But as we learn even more ways to break ankles and break the Omni movement, I'll be uploading more tutorials here, so definitely stay tuned for that. But long story short, in terms of Omni movement and my worries about Omni movement, it actually felt pretty fluid and pretty natural once I got my hands on it. Being able to slide in any direction or dive in any direction just felt way more natural than I thought it would. And I can only imagine what our movement's going to look like a year from now when we've gotten our hands on Black Ops 6 for an extended period of time. There are some downsides to the current movement. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But now as an introduction into the Black Ops 6 movement, they did a really good job, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Up next is the perks. We've only seen a few of them in the beta, but the way that they worked is actually kind of nice. In my opinion, the best way that you can work perks in Call of Duty is to where you're constantly making decisions as what is more important than something else. If it's Ghost instead of Flak Jacket, or Attack Mask instead of Flak Jacket, or Ninja instead of Double Time, or something like that. The way that they balance the perks, the attachments, and the wild cards seems to play really well so far in the beta. And the specialty perks have been super great as well. I believe it's called the Enforcer is the one that I mainly use. It gives you a health regen boost and a speed boost after every time you get a kill. But to use that, you have to have 3 red perks in that category. And the way that it balances out is there aren't necessarily 3 meta red perks. I have to use perk greed if I want to add Ghost, or if I want to add Flak Jacket and get that Enforcer boost that I was talking about earlier. And the way that balances out with the wild cards is that in order to do all the things that I want to do with those perks to get that Enforcer as well as Ghost, I have to run the perk greed wild card, which means that I can't run the Gunfighter wild card or the Overkill wild card. So I'm locked in at 5 attachments and only 1 primary weapon. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. You have to make decisions on what you prioritize over other things. I'm prioritizing using the perks that I want to use to get that Enforcer bonus that I want to get over having more attachments or having more primary weapons in my loadout. The only thing that I would change right now is the other 2 bonuses don't seem quite as powerful as the Enforcer one. So maybe give them a little bit of a boost going forward, but people would be more likely to use the perks in the green categories or in the blue categories. Up next is gunplay. Despite having a heavy PDW meta in the first weekend of the beta, which I'm sure they'll address later, the guns felt really good to use in this game. The fact that most attachments had no negatives made it feel like a really positive experience putting more and more attachments on your weapon, and I found myself getting excited to unlock the next barrel or the next underbarrel or rear grip that would help my gun perform better. Once I finally put away the PDW, as overpowered as it is, I had a ton of fun with the C9, I had a ton of fun with the aims, even the X4, though it felt a little bit weak. I found all the weapons and all the gunfights to feel very smooth. Once the PDW was locked in,
Special effects.
and next is the aim assist curve. As a low player, I didn't think I was going to include this in my pros list, but I actually found this as a really smart way to nerf the most powerful part about controller gaming. When you talk about the debate between controllers and keyboard and mouse, it's always up-close gunfights that put controllers and controller players way ahead of the curve, and why most keyboard and mouse players tend to love Warzone so much more than multiplayer. In case you didn't know, Black Ops 6 completely got rid of aim assist within the 3-meter radius, so if you don't have somebody up close, so you're not going to be doing all the aim, find out for yourself where the opponent is optimal. Similar to the increase in movement in Black Ops 6, I feel like this adds a skill gap for up-close gunfights, where the person who keeps track of their opponent better is going to win the gunfight, rather than the person whose aim assist does the work for them. On top of that, getting rid of the different types of aim assist that we've seen in previous CODs, like default,
You were
Black
never
Ops,
the
and so on and
lead.
so forth. Everybody on the same aim assist type, I feel like makes it an even playing field in terms of the controller players. And I'm very much looking forward to what the skill gap across all of these traits will be. I'm gonna rapid fire the next cons because they weren't in the beta, but they're things that I'm excited about in Black Ops 6. We have classic prestige mode coming back, which is a huge bonus. The camos and the mastery camos that they're coming out with are so fire. The blueprints that we've seen so far with the Bolt Edition have been really cool as well. But I can't wait to grind camos. The fact that you have multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone camos for whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and then number 3 that we care about on the channel the most is that ranked play is dropping as early as possible. They announced that at the drop of Season 1, ranked play.
Yeah, what's up? Yes. She hungry? What's wrong? Huh? Okay. Yeah, what's up? Oh, gosh. Wait, you don't know why she's crying? But after the toilet, I thought she's fine. Oh, okay. You want me to just chill with her in the living room, or should I put her on the playmat? Oh, okay. Sorry. Black, you want to play Black Ops? Black Ops with me? Call of Duty? Okay. Uh, hold on. Sorry. What, you want to play Call of Duty with Daddy? Okay, hold on. Okay.
Coming as well. If it follows the schedule from previous Call of Duty, it will be the first week of this. I'm most excited about this because ranked play is going to ride the wave of excitement that a new release has. Instead of ranked play being used to bring players back that have already gone off the game by January, February, it's only going to further build on that wave of excitement from the initial launch. And the last part I'm going to talk about today is that Treyarch seems to be listening to the community. A lot of the changes that they've made are things that we've been asking for, and this goes across all modes, multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone. I know each mode has their downsides as well, but of all the studios, I have faith in Treyarch to listen to the community and make changes where changes are needed. And now it's time for the cons. Black Ops 6 just this not the same now as it was in 2008 or 2009. Not only are games easier to pick up, gaming culture is a lot more popular than it was back then. Gamers in the middle of the pack nowadays, skill-wise, would probably destroy the players at the top of their game in 2008. If a game is truly trying to increase player retention and protect the worst players until they're able to hang at the top, I'm starting to think maybe that isn't that bad of a thing. It could be because I grind ranked play, so I'm used to skill-based matchmaking in multiplayer, or maybe it's because skill-based matchmaking has been around for so long that I've just gotten used to it. But I'm starting to think it